The old video player whirred to life, spitting dust into the musty attic air. I hadn't meant to find it, this ancient recording of my second birthday party, labeled in my mother's perfect cursive. The girls, age 2. But here I was, cross-legged on the floor, watching my past unfold in grainy resolution. My name is Adelaide, and I'm about to show you the exact moment I realized why I never felt like I belonged in my own family. Look at Alyssa, she's just precious. My mother's voice cooed through the speakers. The camera panned across our living room, focusing on my twin sister in her pink party dress, perfectly curled pigtails bouncing as she danced. Such a natural performer, isn't she, Michael? Born for the spotlight, my father agreed, his voice warm with pride. The camera swung briefly to catch me in the corner, quietly stacking blocks into intricate patterns. No one commented on my engineering prowess. No one even seemed to notice I was there. Alyssa, sweetheart, show everyone your twirl. Mother's voice again, dripping with adoration. The camera stayed fixed on my sister as she spun, her dress floating around her like a cotton candy cloud. The assembled relatives clapped and cheered. I paused the video, studying the frozen frame. There I was, still in the background, looking up from my blocks with an expression I recognized all too well, hope mixed with resignation. 15 years later, nothing had changed. Adelaide? Alyssa's voice carried up through the attic floor. Mother wants us downstairs for dinner. I quickly ejected the tape, shoving it into my jacket pocket. Coming. The dining room was a shrine to Alyssa's achievements, debate team trophies, dance recital photos, academic certificates. My robotics competition medals were conspicuously absent, probably still in the cardboard box where I'd left them last month. There you are, Mother said, barely glancing up from arranging the table settings. Alyssa, darling, tell everyone your news. My sister practically vibrated with excitement. I've been selected as a finalist for the Governor's Youth Leadership Award. That's wonderful, Father beamed, while Mother rushed to embrace her. We'll have to celebrate properly. Perhaps that weekend trip to the lake house we've been discussing? The videotape felt heavy in my pocket as I watched their performance of perfect family happiness. I'd won the state robotics championship last week. They'd forgotten to attend. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I have news too. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me with varying degrees of interest. I've been invited to compete in the National Science Foundation's Young Inventors Showcase next month. Mother's smile tightened. That's nice, dear, but we were discussing Alyssa's achievement. The lake house weekend would be perfect timing before her award ceremony. The showcase is the same weekend, I said quietly. Well, surely you understand this is more important, Mother replied, her tone dismissive. Family should support each other in these moments. I felt something snap inside me, not violently, but with the quiet finality of a bridge cable giving way after years of strain. The video in my pocket wasn't just a relic anymore. It was evidence. You're right, I said, standing up. Family should support each other, all of the family. I walked out of the dining room, ignoring their calls to return. In my bedroom, I pulled out my laptop and typed Grace and Henry Carter into the search bar. My mother's parents, who I'd never met, but whose names I'd found scrawled on the back of an old photograph hidden in that same dusty attic. The first result was a recent article about their charitable foundation. They lived less than 2 hours away. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, building something new from the ruins of what was broken. I had a feeling my grandparents might understand that better than anyone. Behind me, the dinner party continued, my absence barely noticed. But for the first time in 17 years, I didn't care. I had found my catalyst, and nothing would ever be the same. The robotics lab hummed with the sound of servos and excited chatter. My team had just qualified for the national championships, but I couldn't shake the weight of the email sitting in my inbox. My grandparents, the ones I'd never met, had responded to my carefully crafted message. Adelaide, check this calibration. Marcus, my project partner, called out. Something's off with the response time. I forced myself to focus on the robot's articulated arm, but my phone felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. The Carters wanted to meet me. This Sunday, they'd attached a photo of themselves at some charity gala, and the resemblance to my mother was unmistakable, except for the warmth in their eyes. Earth to Adelaide. Marcus waved his hand in front of my face. You okay? You've been spacing out all morning. Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the lab. There's my brilliant sister. Alyssa stood in the doorway, her smile too wide, too perfect. Several heads turned. She had that effect on people. But I knew better. That smile meant trouble. What are you doing here? I asked, setting down my tools. Can't I support my twins' achievements? She glanced around the lab, her nose wrinkling slightly at the smell of solder and machine oil. Mother and father are hosting a dinner party tonight. Important clients. They want both of us there. Of course they did. The perfect family image needed both twins, even the less sparkly one. I have to finish this calibration. It wasn't a request, Adelaide. Her voice dropped lower, meant just for me. Mother's already upset about you skipping family dinner last week. Don't make this worse. I looked at our robot, then at Marcus's concerned face. Give me 20 minutes. You have 10, Alyssa said, already turning to leave, and wear something presentable. The dinner party was exactly as I expected, a carefully orchestrated performance of family perfection. Mother's real estate clients cooed over her darling twins, while father talked property values and market trends. Alyssa's been accepted to several Ivy League schools already, Mother announced over the main course. Early decision, of course. And Adelaide? Someone asked. Will you girls be attending college together? Before I could answer, Alyssa jumped in. Oh, Adelaide's more interested in technical schools. She's quite good with machines. The way she said it made it sound like I fixed toasters for a living. Actually, I said, setting down my fork, I've been offered a full scholarship to MIT's summer engineering program, and the robotics team I lead just qualified for nationals. The table fell silent. Mother's smile flickered. This wasn't part of the script. How wonderful, one of the clients said, genuinely impressed. Two such accomplished daughters. Yes, father said quickly, though we're hoping Adelaide will consider more traditional options. The family business needs a steady hand for the future and Alyssa's leadership skills. My robot can perform microsurgery, I interrupted. I designed the control interface myself. Alyssa's water glass hit the table too hard, splashing onto the pristine tablecloth. Nobody wants a robot operating on them, Adelaide. People trust people. The medical community disagrees. In fact, girls, Mother's voice carried a warning edge. Perhaps we should discuss college plans another time. Later, as the guests were leaving, Alyssa cornered me in the kitchen. What was that about? What was what about? You know exactly what. You're trying to overshadow me. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. That's rich coming from you. I've spent 17 years in your shadow. Oh, please, you've always had your little projects, but now you're deliberately trying to steal my moment. The Leadership Award, college acceptance. Your moment? When has it ever not been your moment? You're just jealous because what? I stepped closer, feeling 17 years of suppressed anger bubbling up. Because mother and father actually see you? Because they've never once forgotten to attend your events? Because they're planning your future while treating mine like an inconvenient hobby? Alyssa's face paled. That's not fair. No, I agreed, pulling out my phone and opening the email from my grandparents. It's not fair at all, but things are about to change. I left her standing there, staring after me as I headed upstairs. Sunday couldn't come fast enough. Let them have their perfect family dinner parties. I was done playing my assigned role in their carefully constructed fantasy. In my room, I pulled out the old videotape and added it to my growing collection of evidence. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's happiness, it's about finally claiming your own. The Carter mansion loomed before me, its Georgian columns a stark contrast to our cookie cutter suburban home. My hands trembled as I pressed the intercom button, half expecting to wake up from this surreal moment. Adelaide? A warm voice crackled through the speaker. Come in, sweetheart. The gates swung open silently. I'd told my parents I was at a robotics workshop. They hadn't even looked up from their phones. Grace Carter met me at the door, and I froze. It was like seeing my mother's face with all the coldness stripped away, replaced with something I'd been starving for my entire life, genuine joy at seeing me. You look just like Karen did at your age, she said softly, pulling me into a hug that felt like coming home, though I suspect you're much wiser than she was. Henry Carter appeared behind her, his eyes crinkling with emotion. Welcome home, Adelaide. Home. The word hit me like a physical force. Over tea served in delicate cups that probably cost more than my laptop, they asked about my life, my interests, my dreams. They actually listened to my answers. When I mentioned the robotics competition, Henry's eyes lit up. I was an engineer before I went into business, he said, still tinker in my workshop. Would you like to see it? Before I could answer, Grace placed a leather-bound album on the table. First, there's something you should know about your mother. The photos told a story I'd never heard. My mother as a teenager, brilliant and driven, accepting academic awards. Karen was going to be a surgeon, Grace explained, full scholarship to medical school. What happened? She met your father. Henry's voice carried old pain. He convinced her that a medical career wouldn't leave time for a proper family life, that it wasn't feminine enough. We tried to reason with her, Grace continued, offered to support her through school, but she chose his vision of her future over her own. When we objected, she cut us out completely. I stared at a photo of my teenage mother, recognizing the same spark I saw in my own eyes when working on my robots. She gave up everything, and now she's doing the same to you, Henry said quietly. We've been watching, Adelaide. Your achievements, your potential. We won't let history repeat itself. A door slammed somewhere in the house, making us all jump. Footsteps approached rapidly. Mother? Father? Your housekeeper? Let me. My mother's voice died as she entered the room. She stood frozen, staring at me sitting between her parents. Adelaide, what are you doing here? The better question, Grace said, rising, is what are you doing here, Karen, after 15 years of silence? I came to discuss. Mother's eyes darted to me. Business matters. Adelaide, go wait in the car. She's not going anywhere, Henry stated firmly. She's exactly where she belongs. She belongs with her family. The family that forgets to attend her competitions? Grace's voice was steel wrapped in silk. The family that dismisses her achievements in favor of her sisters? Mother's face went white. You've been spying on us? We've been protecting our granddaughter, Henry corrected. The one you've been systematically destroying, just like you destroyed yourself. Adelaide, Mother turned to me, her voice desperate. These people abandoned me when I needed them most. They're trying to turn you against us. I pulled out my phone and played the video from my second birthday party. Mother's dismissive voice filled the room. No, Michael, focus on Alyssa. Adelaide's just playing with blocks again. You've been doing this her entire life, Karen, Grace said softly, and we won't stand by and watch anymore. We're offering Adelaide what we once offered you, Henry added, a chance to be herself, to pursue her dreams without compromise. Mother's laugh was brittle. And I suppose this has nothing to do with your fortune? Nothing to do with finding a new heir since I disappointed you? Actually, I stood up, my voice steady despite my racing heart. It has everything to do with finding family who sees me, really sees me. Adelaide, I'm staying for dinner, I cut her off, and I'll be coming back, often. You can't stop me. The look on her face, rage mixed with fear and something like recognition, told me everything. She saw herself in me now, but it was too late. I wasn't going to let anyone clip my wings, not anymore. The acceptance letter from MIT's summer engineering program lay crumpled in Mother's perfectly manicured hands. I hadn't meant for her to find it. It had fallen from my bag during another tense family dinner. Now the silence in Father's study felt like a physical weight. Full scholarship, Mother said flatly. When were you planning to tell us? When you bothered to ask about my future. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Father leaned forward in his leather chair. Adelaide, be reasonable. The summer is already planned. Alyssa's internship at the governor's office. The family vacation. The vacation I'm not invited to? I watched their faces carefully. Yes, Alyssa told me about the family bonding trip to Europe. Mother's lips tightened. Your sister needs our support right now. Her future. And what about my future? A knock at the study door made us all turn. Alyssa stood there, her expression unreadable. I found something interesting in Adelaide's room. My stomach dropped as she held up the old videotape. Behind her, I could see my bedroom door standing open. She'd been snooping. What were you doing in my— More importantly, Alyssa cut me off. I found these. She pulled out printed emails between me and the Carters. Been busy making new family connections, sister dear? Father stood abruptly. The Carters? Karen, isn't that— My parents, Mother's voice was ice, who have no right to contact my daughter. They have every right, I shot back. They're the only ones who actually care about what I want. They're manipulating you, Mother snapped, using you to get back at me, just like they tried to control my life. By offering to support your dreams? The words hit their mark. Mother flinched. Henry told me about medical school, about how you gave it all up because Father convinced you it wasn't feminine enough. Father's face darkened. That's enough. No, it's not. I grabbed the acceptance letter from Mother's hands. You're trying to do the same thing to me. Well, I won't let you. I'm going to MIT this summer. You most certainly are not, Father declared. This family needs to present a united front. Your sister's political connections could be damaged if people find out about the black sheep twin. I laughed bitterly. Don't worry, I won't embarrass you by existing in public anymore. Adelaide, Alyssa stepped forward, her voice suddenly gentle. We're trying to help you. These people, they're strangers. We're your family. Are we? I pulled out my phone, queued up another video I'd found in the attic. Let's talk about family. The screen showed a 10-year-old Alyssa at her dance recital. In the background, a younger me was receiving a science fair award. Mother and Father stood with Alyssa, completely ignoring my moment. I have dozens of these, I said quietly. Years of evidence showing exactly what kind of family we are. You've been collecting evidence? Mother's voice shook. Against your own family? No, Mother. I've been collecting proof that I exist. The room fell silent. Even Alyssa seemed stunned. The Carters want to fund my education, I continued. All of it. MIT, graduate school, whatever I choose. No strings attached except one, that I follow my own dreams, not someone else's. And in exchange, they get their revenge on me. Mother's laugh was bitter. Using my own daughter as a weapon. Not everything is about you. I moved toward the door. But if you want to talk about weapons, ask yourself who taught me how to use them. I learned from the best, after all. If you walk out that door, Father started, you'll what? Notice I'm gone? I turned back one last time. The funny thing about being invisible is that no one sees you coming or going. I left them standing there, my sister's face showing the first real emotion I'd seen from her in years. Fear. Not of me, but of what I represented, the possibility of breaking free. In my room, I pulled out the packed bag I'd hidden under my bed weeks ago. The Carters had already offered me a place to stay if things went south. They understood about escape plans, about the price of freedom. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about becoming everything they tried to prevent you from being. And I was just getting started. The suitcases lined our foyer like soldiers preparing for battle. Mother supervised the loading of the car while Father checked their passports one last time. 3 weeks in Europe, the perfect family vacation. Minus one family member, of course. Adelaide, Alyssa called from the stairs, dragging her designer luggage. Could you help with these? I didn't move from my spot at the kitchen counter, where I was updating the code for our robotics project. The national competition was in 2 weeks. Not that anyone had asked. Adelaide, Mother's sharp voice cut through my concentration. Help your sister. I'm busy. I didn't look up. Besides, I wouldn't want to intrude on your family time. The typing stopped. Mother's heels clicked across the floor. This attitude needs to stop. We've discussed this. Someone needs to stay and watch the house. Watch the house? I finally looked up. That's your excuse? We both know you hired a house sitter. I saw the contract on Father's desk. Mother's face tightened. Your sister needs our support right now. These connections in Europe could secure her future. Right, because my future doesn't matter. That's not. My phone buzzed. A message from Grace. Everything's ready whenever you need it. Mother's eyes narrowed at the screen. Still conspiring with them? They're called grandparents, and they've offered to fund my entire education. They're trying to buy you, she spat, just like they tried to buy me. No, Mother. They tried to save you, just like they're saving me. The sound of breaking glass made us both jump. Alyssa stood in the doorway, a shattered water glass at her feet, but it was her face that caught my attention. She looked scared. What do you mean, saving you? She asked. I pulled out an envelope from my bag. The Carters aren't just funding my MIT program. They're offering me a place to live, full independence. You're leaving? Alyssa's voice cracked. For the first time in years, I saw my sister instead of my rival. Adelaide, Father appeared behind her. This has gone far enough. You're 17. You can't just... Actually, I can. I stood up. I've already filed for emancipation. The Carters' lawyers helped me prepare everything. Your signatures aren't even required, given the evidence I've collected. Mother went pale. Evidence? Years of documented neglect. Financial records showing the disparity in spending between Alyssa and me. Witness statements from teachers about missed conferences, competitions, awards ceremonies. The videos were just the beginning. You've been building a case against us? Father's voice rose. Your own parents? No. I met his gaze. I've been building an escape route. Adelaide, please. Alyssa stepped forward, glass crunching under her shoes. We can fix this. Cancel the trip. Have a family meeting. That's just it, I cut her off. We're not a family. We're a carefully curated image, and I'm the smudge you keep trying to erase. Mother grabbed my arm. You ungrateful. Karen. Grace Carter's voice rang through the kitchen. She stood in the doorway, Henry beside her. I hadn't even heard them come in. Get out of my house, Mother snarled. Gladly, Henry said calmly. Adelaide, are you ready? I picked up my laptop. The bag I'd packed weeks ago was already in their car. You can't do this. Father started toward me, but Henry stepped between us. Actually, she can, and if you try to stop her, the evidence goes public. How would that affect Alyssa's political aspirations? The silence was deafening. Adelaide, Alyssa whispered, don't go. For a moment, I hesitated. Behind the perfect facade, I saw my sister, really saw her, for the first time in years. She was as trapped as I had been, just in a different way. You could come too, I offered quietly. Mother's sharp intake of breath was answer enough. Alyssa stepped back, shaking her head. That's what I thought. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Enjoy Europe. Send me a postcard from the life you chose. As Grace's car pulled away, I watched my family shrink in the rearview mirror. Mother stood rigid, father looked lost, and Alyssa pressed her hand against the window, an echo of connection too late to matter. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in what you take, but in what you refuse to give anymore. Your time, your dreams, your future. I was done being the family ghost. It was time to become solid. 3 weeks after my family left for Europe, my robotics team won the national championship. The headlines read, Local Teens Medical Robot Revolution. Grace and Henry hosted a celebration dinner, but something felt hollow about the victory. No one from my old life was there to see it. That emptiness didn't last long. They returned on a Sunday. I was in Henry's workshop, refining my robot's interface, when Grace called down. Adelaide, you have visitors. Mother and father stood in the living room, still tan from their vacation. Alyssa wasn't with them. Congratulations on your win, father said stiffly. It's all over the local news. Thank you for finally noticing. I kept my distance, noting how Mother's eyes darted around the room, cataloging the wealth on display. We've come to take you home, Mother announced. This rebellious phase has gone on long enough. Henry stepped forward. Karen, the Emancipation Papers have been challenged, Father interrupted. Our lawyers found irregularities in the filing, and we have evidence of parental alienation. My stomach dropped. What evidence? Mother pulled out her phone, playing a recording. My voice filled the room. They never wanted me. I was just the spare, the backup plan. It was from a private conversation with Grace, edited to remove context. You've been recording me? Alyssa has been gathering evidence, Mother said coldly. For weeks before we left, every conversation, every secret meeting. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. My own twin, the one person I'd hoped might understand. You can't force me back, I said, but my voice wavered. Actually, we can. Father held up more papers. The court has temporarily suspended the emancipation pending investigation. You're still a minor, Adelaide. You're coming home. Over my dead body. Grace stepped between us. Mother, Karen's voice turned silky. You really want another public scandal? Remember what happened last time you tried to control someone's life? The threat hung in the air. Grace paled. Adelaide, Henry said quietly, this is your choice. But was it? If they fought this, my grandparents could lose everything. Their reputation, their foundation's work, their ability to help others, all because they tried to help me. If I come back, I said slowly, what are your terms? Mother smiled. No more contact with the Carters. You'll finish high school at home, focusing on proper subjects. This engineering obsession ends now. And my robot, the medical contracts, will be transferred to Thompson Industries, Father stated. Your work belongs to the family. They weren't just trying to control my future. They wanted to steal it. Adelaide, don't. Grace pleaded. I looked at my grandparents, these people who'd given me everything my parents hadn't. Then I looked at Mother's triumphant face and saw something I'd never noticed before: fear. She wasn't just trying to control me. She was terrified of what I represented: freedom, choice, the path she'd abandoned. Okay, I said quietly. I'll come home. Mother's smile widened. But first, I pulled out my phone. Listen to this. I played the complete conversation with Grace, unedited. Then another, Mother admitting to the years of neglect. And finally, today's conversation, recorded live. You're not the only one who knows how to gather evidence, I said. Everything you've done, every manipulation, every threat, it's all documented. If you force me home, if you touch my patents or my grandparents, it all goes public. You wouldn't dare, Mother whispered. Try me. You taught me well, remember? Image is everything. Father stepped forward, his face dark with rage, but Henry moved faster, placing himself between us. Get out of my house, he said quietly, before I call the police. They left, but Mother's parting words chilled me. This isn't over, Adelaide. Family is forever. I sank onto the couch, shaking. The victory felt Pyrrhic. I'd won my freedom, but at what cost? My sister's final betrayal, my parents' escalating threats, the knowledge that this war was far from over. Grace sat beside me, holding my hand. You did the right thing. Did I? I stared at the door. They'll never stop coming after me now. No, Henry agreed. But now you're ready for them. I thought about my robot, designed to help people heal. Somewhere along the way, my quest for revenge had transformed into something else, a fight not just for my freedom, but for my right to create, to help, to exist on my own terms. Mother was right about one thing. This wasn't over, but she'd forgotten an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one you taught to be invisible. The press conference room buzzed with anticipation. My medical robotics breakthrough had attracted international attention, and Thomson Industries, my father's hastily rebranded accounting firm, was trying to claim credit. I sat in the back, watching Father approach the podium. Mother and Alyssa flanked him, the perfect corporate family. The sight of them made my hands shake, but I steadied them on my laptop. Thomson Industries is proud to announce a revolutionary advancement in medical robotics, Father began. Our development team. Interesting. I stood up, my voice carrying through the room. I'd love to meet this development team. The reporters turned. Camera flashes exploded as they recognized me from the national championship coverage. Adelaide, Mother's smile was brittle. How lovely of you to join us. I wouldn't miss it. I walked forward, laptop in hand, especially since you're about to commit patent fraud. The room erupted in questions. Father gripped the podium. Security. Won't be necessary. I connected my laptop to the presentation system. I'm sure everyone here would love to see the actual development process of this technology. The screen filled with dated video footage from Henry's workshop. Me, working alone, developing the robot. Then the timestamps. All while I was living with my grandparents, long after I'd left home. Adelaide, Alyssa stepped forward, her voice low. Don't do this. We can work something out. Like you worked out recording private conversations to use against me? She flinched. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the crowd. Thomson Industries has no claim to this technology. The patents are registered solely in my name, developed independently with support from the Carter Foundation. The Carter Foundation? A reporter perked up. Karen Thompson's parents? Mother's face went white. Yes, I smiled. My grandparents, who, unlike my parents, actually supported my work instead of trying to steal it. These are family matters. Father tried to regain control. Private? Nothing about this is private. I cut him off. You tried to steal my future. Again, but this time I have proof. I played the recording from our last confrontation. Their threats about forcing me home, taking my patents. The room fell silent. Adelaide, Mother's voice shook. We were trying to protect you. No, you were trying to control me, just like you've always done. I turned to the reporters. Thompson Industries has no rights to this technology. Any attempts to claim otherwise will result in immediate legal action. You ungrateful? Father started forward, but Alyssa grabbed his arm. Stop, she whispered. Everyone's watching. And they were. Dozens of cameras captured every moment of their carefully constructed facade crumbling. Mr. Thompson, a reporter called out, did you attempt to fraudulently claim your daughter's work? Ms. Thompson, why did you leave home? Is there a connection between this and the Carter Foundation's recent announcement about their succession plans? Mother's head snapped up at that last question. Succession plans? Oh, I smiled. Didn't you hear? Grandma and Grandpa are naming me their heir, all their wealth, their foundation, their legacy. It's going to the daughter you threw away. The look on her face, rage mixed with devastating realization, was everything I'd dreamed of. But somehow, it felt hollow. You know what the saddest part is? I said quietly, just for them. I would have shared it all. The success, the recognition, the future. All you had to do was love me. Alyssa stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Adelaide, please. Goodbye, sister. I turned away. Enjoy the spotlight. It's all yours now. As I walked out, reporters swarming around me, I heard Mother's voice crack. Adelaide, wait! But I kept walking. Behind me, their perfect world collapsed under the weight of truth. But I felt no satisfaction, only relief. Grace and Henry waited in the lobby. You didn't have to do it this way, Grace said softly. Yes, I did. I watched through the glass as security cleared the press conference room. They needed to learn that actions have consequences. And what did you learn? Henry asked. I thought about the years spent seeking revenge, only to find that success was the best revenge of all. I learned that sometimes winning isn't about destroying your enemies, I said. Sometimes it's about becoming everything they feared you could be. Outside, cameras flashed and reporters called my name. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I was inevitable. The hospital corridor buzzed with excitement as I guided my surgical robot through its first official procedure. Through the observation window, dozens of medical professionals watched, including Henry, who beamed with pride. This wasn't just a demonstration, it was a revolution in microsurgery. My phone vibrated. A news alert about Thompson Industries filing for bankruptcy. Father's desperate attempt to rebrand his accounting firm had backfired spectacularly after the press conference scandal. Their perfect facade had finally crumbled completely. I pushed the notification away, focusing on the delicate movements of my creation. This moment wasn't about them anymore. After the successful procedure, as the crowd of observers dispersed, I noticed a familiar figure lingering by the door. Alyssa, looking smaller somehow, without our parents' shadow looming over her. That was incredible, she said quietly. Thanks. I started packing up my equipment. How did you find me? I follow your work, all of it. She stepped closer. The medical journals, the interviews, the foundation initiatives. You're changing the world, Adelaide. While you're changing campaign strategies. The words came out sharper than intended. Actually, she smiled sadly, I dropped out of the political internship, started taking engineering classes instead. That made me look up. You hate engineering. No, I hate what I thought I had to be. She pulled something from her bag, an old photograph of us as children, building with blocks together. Remember this? Before they started pushing us into different boxes? I did remember. before the roles were assigned, before the competition began. Mother and father are selling the house, she continued, moving somewhere smaller. They wanted me to ask. She hesitated. They want to know if you'll meet with them. Why? So they can try to control me again? No, I think they finally understand what they lost. She placed the photo on my workstation. What we all lost. I studied my sister's face, really looked at her for the first time in years. The perfect mask was gone, replaced by something raw and real. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. I know, but maybe. She took a deep breath. Maybe I could come forward, learn from you, not as competition or replacement, just as sisters. Before I could answer, Henry appeared in the doorway. Adelaide, the Carter Foundation board is waiting. Coming, I gathered my things, then turned back to Alyssa. You know it won't be easy. Breaking free of their expectations never is. I learned that from watching you. She smiled tentatively. You showed me it was possible. I thought about revenge, about justice, about all the ways I'd wanted to make them feel as invisible as they'd made me feel. But standing here, surrounded by the life I'd built, those desires felt distant. Sunday dinners, I said finally, at the Carters. Come alone. We'll start there. Her eyes lit up with hope, the same look I'd seen in the mirror when Grace and Henry first opened their door to me. Later, in Henry's workshop, I found Grace looking through old family albums. Everything all right? She asked, noting my thoughtful expression. I think. I picked up a screwdriver, turning it over in my hands. I think I finally understand why you never gave up on Mother, even after she pushed you away. Grace smiled softly. Sometimes love means keeping the door open, even when someone slams it shut, but not letting them walk all over you when they decide to walk through it. Exactly. She closed the album. Your sister came alone today. That's a start. I nodded, picking up the photograph Alyssa had left. Two little girls, building something together, before the world told them they couldn't. You know, I said, I always thought revenge would feel like winning, but this feels more like freedom, Grace finished. The freedom to choose who you want to be and who you want in your life. I pinned the photograph to my workbench next to the blueprints for my next project. Maybe some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. Maybe some shouldn't be. But others. Through the workshop window, I watched Alyssa walking to her car, shoulders straight, looking forward instead of back. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in building something new from the pieces they left behind. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you find others willing to build with you.